She was put in the national spotlight after her husband passed away and became the donor in a historic transplant operation. And she has written a book about it called The Match, Complete Strangers, a miracle face transplant, 2 lives transformed. Susan Whitman-Helfgott, thanks for being with us. And
thanks for having me,
Curtis. What an incredible story.
Really happy to be in Kansas City.
Yeah, well, appreciate it. It is a great city.
It is a great city. I agree.
So tell us about the motivation behind this book.
So, just very quickly, my husband was waiting for a heart transplant for a long time, finally received one in Boston in the spring of 2009, and unfortunately had a massive stroke right after surgery, and he never awoke. That set the stage for the New England Organ Bank to approach me and ask about organ transplant. They recovered the heart that had been transplanted, which was very unusual, and they also took kidneys and pancreas. And then they reapproached me. Esther Sharves, a wonderful lady who saves lives every day by asking for organs, came back to me and said, I have this very unusual request. There's a man and he's suffering. He can't eat properly. He has a feeding tube. He can't breathe. He has a tracheostomy tube. He's living as a recluse. He had a fall and he lost his face. Would you consider donating your husband's face?
Wow.
So that set the stage for the first facial transplant in New England, only the second one in the country, and that's the second one that's been done. There have been none since. Your
initial thought when you got that request?
My initial thought was, wow, and shock.
Yeah.
Immediately followed by the fact that my husband had been so ill for so long, and he too had had a trach tube and a feeding tube, and I nursed him, and I knew what that was all about, and I just had this vision of this man living this life for 4 years. I just had to do it.
Why your husband's face?
Why was my husband the match?
Yeah.
Okay, well, with any solid organ, and the face is considered an organ, you have to match tissue type, blood type, HLA class, the whole thing. It was a perfect match.
So, have you seen the guy who got your husband's face? And
Jim Mackey is restored. He can speak again. He used to not really be able to speak. He eats whatever.
Eerie at all when you see?
Well, the very first time Jim and I met, I have to say, it was unusual, and I think this is true of any organ donor family meeting a recipient for the first time, and I think because it was a face, there is something very different about a face, and probably always will be.
Do you feel like it is your husband?
No, not at all. And if you look at the way a facial allograft is lifted and then transplanted, it goes on the architecture of the, you have your own bone structure. And so if you put something on, there's virtually no chance that anyone would look the same as their donor. But I got to know Jim, back to the story, and I got to know Bohdan Pomahawk, who was this young Czech surgeon who'd come basically to the States penniless and kind of broke into the Harvard medical community and ended up doing this historic transplant. My husband was the child of Holocaust survivors. James Mackey was the child of Japanese Americans who were interred in the Second World War. And as I got to know the lives of these 3 men, I realized they were all immigrants. Jim and my husband were 9 months apart. And the whole thing became very compelling and kind of provocative. And so before it was all over, I started keeping a diary, and my lawyer sent it to Bill Novak, who is a writer. And Bill called me and said, this is a tremendous story. Keep writing. So I did. And after 90 pages, Simon & Schuster gave us a book deal, and Bill and I wrote a book, and it came out on Tuesday.
Yeah, it is out, and you can get it at any bookstore, right?
It's at any bookstore, and we'll be at Rainy Day Books tonight, Unity Temple, I think, on the Plaza. Yeah, so
I'm interested in this book.
It's a terrific read.
Yeah, I'm going to read that.
Is.
All right, well, thank you so much for being on the show.
You are so kind to have me. Thank you, and thanks to Midwest Transplant, who also brought me out here.
Incredible story.
Thank you so much.
All righty.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you.
The Midwest Transplant Network and the Rainy Day Books author event is tonight at 7 o'clock at the Unity Temple on the Plaza. The Midwest Transplant Network staff will be on hand to share information about transplants and becoming a member of the donor registry. Once again, thanks so much for sharing your story.